educated just feel that because you're in a place of power or authority that you have a laissez-faire attitude toward what happens in terms of consequences. There are repercussions that come when you feel that your power allows you to take actions that are against the law.
Laws need to be put into place that holds these police officers accountable for their actions when they're in the wrong.
Like Eric Gardner said, he said 11 times, "I can't breathe." Everyone saw the tape, and for it to be a no indictment, we're tired of it. So Long Beach is here, and we're saying this stops today. This stops today. This stops today.
Now that was some sound bites that FIOS 1 reporter Miles Miller, who was also in Washington over the weekend, got for that rally. But protesters, they came out in force to speak out against the violence here and questions as to the equity of the system. Mayor de Blasio, he has come under attack by the NYPD after seen by many to be sympathizing not just with the protesters, but also talking about his own son and his experiences. Speaking about Dante and how he should address the cops if stopped by them, and worried about his safety coming home at night because of possible interactions with the police. Now that comment had police officials like Pat Lynch and Ed Mullins sounding off.
Quote, "What parents have done for decades who have children of color, especially young men of color, is train them to be very careful when they have an encounter with a police officer."
Sad statement, embarrassing statement for the mayor of New York. The opportunity right now for the mayor of New York to take a role of leadership and build bridges is right at his doorstep. And statements like that become divisive.
Rather than saying that we have to respect this grand jury's decision, we have to respect the fact they took their oath seriously and that they looked at all the evidence. Then what he laid on the shoulders of every New York City police officer is what he feels is decades of racism. Well, that's unfair.
Now, many people have weighed in, including Cardinal Dolan. Timothy Dolan said that the rift between the police, city leaders, and the community, it's got to come to an end. Cardinal Dolan wrote an editorial in the Daily News after police officials spoke of banning de Blasio and the city council speaker, Viverito, from attending funerals for police officers. Here's what the Cardinal had to say. To go so far as to make controversial one of the more gripping and tearful occasions in the life of this city, the funeral of a fallen officer, a sacred occasion meant to unite us, never fracture us. He said that while it was unfair to stereotype all police officers as bigots, it was equally unfair and counterproductive to dismiss our mayor and other leaders of enemies of police. Now, many of folks are bracing themselves for what's to come in the case of Akai Gurley, who was accidentally gunned down by a rookie New York police officer in that dark stairwell of a Brooklyn housing complex. And Saturday, we spoke with Philip Banks. Now, many may remember the name here because just about a month ago, he was promoted to basically the second most important position at the NYPD. He's the former chief of department for the New York Police Department. And I asked him directly about the altercation, what he thought about procedures and also policy that day.
I'm going to make the assumption that this officer had his weapon out because he felt some type of a danger. I can't conceive what that particular danger would have been to not only have your gun out and have it pointed, but have your finger on the trigger.
He made it pretty clear, guys, that that day, the actions of that rookie officer, Officer Liang, he had a lot of trouble basically reconciling with what police protocol and procedures are with what happened that day. But let's put in context what happened over the weekend on Saturday at one of the protests. 2 officers were beaten, including one that got a broken nose, and there was accounts that their police jackets and radios were trying to be taken off them, and there were arrests that were made later on. But the point is, they believe an environment was created by the mayor in part after those 2 decisions, most recently Staten Island, and the police protocol of a laissez-faire to let the rallies take place here. Now it's got to have to come to an end because they believe that it's gotten out of hand. And obviously then the logical concerns, Jonathan, is that, you know, this is going to lead to more ramped up conflict. People aren't just going to burn off the anger. Now there's going to be lines in the sand where you can't cross, and then you're going to have 2 irresistible forces. There's worries where this could go.
There are, and I'm a little bit concerned, but I do feel as if when you have 30,000 people marching and you have 1 or 2 people that act up and do something, it's like when you're by yourself, you're less likely to pick a fight with somebody. When you have 30,000 people behind you, you're more likely to be a tough guy and try to do something. And this person obviously took advantage of the situation, and I believe what the mayor said subsequently about how he should be fired from his job and should be prosecuted and all is absolutely true and needs to happen. The larger picture here, the grand thing is that the mayor, the different leaders of the different communities, the police department, they all need to come together and something needs to actually happen here. I know he came out with his press conference and said that they're going to retrain police officers and things at the NYPD are going to get changed now, but more action needs to happen here, as I said in the other segment, locally, and I believe that the mayor has the authority and the ability to do that. And, the battle between the NYPD and the sergeants and all that, it stems from contracts that they don't have. It stems from so much other stuff. And yeah, they feel alienated that they have a mayor who is really not on their side when, yes, he's the mayor of the city of New York, but he's also responsible for the NYPD and its people, and he needs to stand up for them. And he's just not doing that. It's a triangulation right now that really, he can't play this game anymore. He needs to really bring everybody together.
Are you saying de Blasio should do something along the lines of rolling back or scaling back broken windows?
No, but I think he needs to come to consensus. Body cameras, using tasers, using other means and all, and retraining police officers is something he needs to do. What happened with Gurley when you had 2 rookie cops on the beat in an area that is higher crime and all, I mean, that's just bad policy, and I don't believe that's the way the policy was actually written. And so, there was a mishap there. There was a problem there. The policy broke down, and things needed to be changed.
But then there's some of the optics, guys. Take the Gurley case. If it's true, and right now it's not confirmed by any means, but if it's true that the first call that has been reported after the officer made that fateful decision and shot an innocent guy who was coming down because the elevators didn't work, going down the stairwell in the building he lived in, and shot right in the chest fatally, went to his to his union rep. And then 6-7 minutes later, the call went to EMS, and again, the guy died en route to the hospital. That's more than just a mistake. That talks to potentially a cultural thing. And, Dominic, I just remember at the time when there was that event, we did the show that night where you had Sharpton and Bratton on the same stage, sitting shoulder to shoulder with the mayor here, and they were elevated to the same level when it came to this. I remember we were talking like, that don't look right, and you knew how that was going to. You've seen this where there's power plays that go on right now. It is the job of the mayor to bring folks together, isn't it? I know he ran as a progressive candidate and somebody who's going to roll back a lot of the stop and frisk and et cetera, right? But he's got to be careful how he plays this out.
Well, let me put it this way, Richard. I know that the police unions are not happy, and to Jonathan's point, he's right. Contract plays a large role in this, the fact that they don't have a contract.
It runs deeper, though.
Okay, but let me just make this point. When Missouri burned, what happened here in New York? Nothing. The unions may not like what Mayor de Blasio is saying, but I am telling you, this mayor is keeping a lid on this city. And he made another good point. I don't care how many cops you got. When 20, 30,000 people are marching, I don't care how many cops you got. They're going to go where they want to go. And I saw that firsthand as they said, they told me in advance, we're taking the Brooklyn Bridge. And that's exactly, I don't care how many cops NYPD has. You're not going to stop 30,000 people at one time. And it's scary, Richard, because I was standing there and on Broadway, like 1,000 people just laid on the street. So what, you're going to arrest 1,000 people right then and there? The mayor, some of us may not like his rhetoric right now. Some may feel that it's going too far to the left, too far to the protesters. But you have to give him this much. He's keeping a lid from things from blowing as of right now.
Would it be a
in New York
mistake
City
for the NYPD to crack down on these protesters?
The NYPD cannot crack down on the
protesters. If they tried.
They cannot. I'm glad you brought that up. It's easy to talk tough. It's easy to put on, and I'm not denying their jobs. It's easy to put on the riot helmets and the sticks. But when there's 30,000 people out there, what are you going to do? You can't arrest 30,000 people.
Except we've always said, and we saw this at Ferguson, et cetera, the police are almost in those situations when it's got to that point an impossible situation. You want to let people protest, burn off some of that anger. They're going to yell in your face and stuff, and you kind of got to take it. But when they start burning down buildings, when they start breaking windows, looting and vandalizing, and that didn't happen in the city. I'm not trying to say it did. They get criticized for sitting and watching it. Right? And then some even said they wanted it, and all the other conspiracy theories then come out of the woodwork. So there are lines they can't cross. And then there is its consensus, at least I've heard from a few different people at Police Plaza, that those two cops got beat up because they've taken such a hands-off
and that's
approach.
awful. But Richard, let me just make this quick final point. The best thing NYPD has done, they put the blue jackets on, community fairs are out there. You cannot have, you know, officers that are determined they're going to crack down, because you will have a full-scale riot. That's how bad it is in the city of New York.
All right. Now, we talk about this situation and how we believe, whatever it will, this is ramping up to some level of change, whether it's coming from the national level, as Jeannie said, or more on the local level, as Jonathan did, that there has been this call for change here, and certainly we'll see something, one would think. However, we said the same thing a couple of years ago after the tragedy in Newtown, and when we look back, what has changed? Well, up next, a mass shooting in Pennsylvania, leaving 6 dead after a domestic dispute, a rally and anger against expanded background checks in the state of Washington, and all as we mark that terrible 2-year anniversary since the Newtown massacres. We're going to be talking about guns after Newtown, straight ahead.